Okay, today we are performing very delicate surgery. We're doing a little organ transplant on my primary Nintendo 64 controller. Nintendo 64 controllers are rather infamous for not being the most sturdy, holding up the best. And Rerez swears to God about these 8-bit do replacement Hall effect joysticks. And so we are going to replace the control stick of my Nintendo 64 controller. And I am taking a vacation to Canada soon, so if this doesn't work out, I can track Rerez down and beat and punch him in the face. I thought the Nintendo 64 controller would use those little triangular head screws that, like what the Game Boy uses. If you could just use a little Phillips head screwdriver, then yeah, any moron can do this. Okay. Control stick is already, it's thick like the GameCube's control stick. That's good. Removing the transplant organ from the packaging. Take care of that, Nurse Airlift. Thank you. Okay. Opening up the patient's chest cavity. Now, there is a lot of dust and dirt and shit down in the holes of this controller. Screwdriver's a little magnetic. Please hold on to that, nurse. I have two of these little transparent see-through controllers, and I really wish that company still did that because this is just the most beautiful fucking controller that I have ever seen in my entire life. Especially the Arctic blue. I know they had like a bright light green and bright orange and stuff. Those are all pretty colors. But then these days we just have like boring black and white. Should probably remove the patient's brain, the memory card, to make the procedure a little bit easier. Hold on to that, nurse. Okay, that should be the last screw. I think one's not... budge. Okay. Yep, that's all the screws out. There are 7 in total. Okay, something still needs to be taken out because the top is not pulling apart. What? Oh, there's 2 in the, there's 2 more screws in the, where packs come in, packs are. I remember seeing one time at V-Stock this thing called the Tremor Pack. It was a rumble pack that had a slot to insert a second rumble pack. So that your controller just shake to high holy hell. I kind of kicked myself for not buying it because I don't use rumble packs anyway. But like, I've never seen anything like that. And it just sounds like this insane little gizmo to try out. And plus, it would probably let you use a rumble pack and a controller pack at the same time, which I remember the schoolyard rumors that in Super Smash Brothers, that if you did have a rumble pack and a controller pack at the same time, then you could play as Luke Skywalker in Super Smash Brothers, because everyone just figured there had to be a reason why that lightsaber item was in there. Okay. Okay. We have opened the patient's chestal cavity. Should probably actually read the directions. Oh, it's just 4 little pictures. Take out screws. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so yeah. It's not even directions. It's tiny, itty-bitty little pictograms. Cheese and rice. Okay. Okay. Have to remove the joystick. Very delicate screws on this. We have opened up, as Team 4-Star called it, the mutant banana. It looks like this this is the Z trigger button, obviously, so this has to push out somehow. Do we push it out or pull it out? Neither, because there are clips to either side here. Well, I know that this pulls out because this is where the controller, the new one, plugs in. A little easily here. Oh, yep, there we go. Okay. Control stick lifts out. Now we just have to figure out how to unplug it from this little connector here. Okay. Do I just yank on the wires? The controllers, the instructions don't really say shit. It just basically says, yeah, pull it out. Don't want to yank on the wires, but I'm not really sure there's a better way to do it. I might need ply. Oh, there it goes. There it comes out. Okay, the old control stick is out, and we are ready to insert the new one. Plug goes in this way. Plug it in first, and then we insert the control stick into its the new one. The L button has fallen out, but we can take care of that later. Hold on to that, nurse. Getting it flat against the controller body is a little bit of a pain in the arse. Don't want to apply pressure to this. All right, looks like it's going in flat there. Come on, maybe you can. Okay, it's plugged in. Okay, next we put the Z trigger back in. Like it just pops in here. Okay, Z trigger is in. All right, so we reattach the control stick. All right. Shit, screw it in. Because yeah, the tiny golden colored screws are the ones that went into the joystick. All right. Transplant is pretty much complete. Now let's sew the patient back up, doctor. Thank you, nurse. Okay. The transplant is complete. We don't need this anymore. So we will. I was hoping that would fly further back and make a satisfying and comedic crashing sound, but it's probably for the best that it landed on a nice soft couch behind me. Put back the L button that was in the way. I am genuinely surprised I called it correctly, the L button, because it is on the left. Oh yeah, there were two smaller screws that went into the slot where the memory slash card goes in. And we will sew the patient back up. Thank you, directions. You are completely useless. Oh, the other tiny black screw is still in there. Good. It stayed in the housing. Actually, let's put it in like this, because otherwise you have to thread a very long needle to get it in there. The reason I was interested in these Hall Effect control sticks is because I actually bought a replacement Nintendo 64 controller. I think it's like called the Brawler or something. But then Miles and I, last time we visited, we were playing Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. He was using the regular controller, I was using the Brawler controller, and he was kicking my ass because it turns out the Brawler controller does not have analog support. It's like, if you're moving in a direction, it's just all the way in that direction, which I guess the name of the controller was kind of a hint, because fighting games tend to use like harsh inputs like that, but it's like, okay, so a actual better functioning control stick would be ideal there. You can already see how much bigger the Hall Effect joystick is compared to the base default Nintendo 64. Okay, and now we just pop all 7 screws back in. Because yeah, like we were playing Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, I was crashing into everything left and right, and I was like, I remember being not quite this shitty at Racer. Okay, these screws I don't think are lined up correctly because the housing isn't clicking back together quite right. Okay, this handle is not clicking back together right. Something's wrong. Oh, there we go. Be funny to try and determine exactly where every screw went back, because from all the debris and shit on the heads of the screws, but I'm just going to put them in because these 7 screws should be interchangeable. I don't feel like they go deep in very far, but I can always tighten them down if I need to. All right, I don't want to strip the head of the screw. Oh, this one's going in smoother than all the other ones did. I guess everything's been lined up correctly. And tighten the 2 screws in here that I thought I had misaligned. Alright, now to check if the memory card still inserts correctly. It does. Okay. Alright, new control stick. It's more rigid. It's the 8-bit joystick is definitely more comfortable than the hard-ass piece of plastic on a default Nintendo 64 controller. It's bigger, so you've got more room for your thumbs. You can see the side-by-side here, because I've got 4 N64 controllers. I only have 1 Hall Effect control stick right now. A lot less rattly at default, a lot comfy rubber instead of hard plastic. Supposedly will hold up better because when I reviewed Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine, I had smart-ass commenters saying, "You played Super Smash Bros. With that controller once. That means it is broken and you cannot convince me otherwise." Eat shit. Alright, but now the question is, does it still work? Alright, well, Monopoly isn't gonna do shit for testing out a new control stick, so I have a stack of games that I'm intimately familiar with to try out. I started with Star Wars Rogue Squadron, which I think was the first Nintendo 64 game that I ever played, and there was this terrifying moment when I started playing where the controls felt really sensitive and I worried I'd made a horrible mistake, but it didn't take long to get used to it. The Hall effect sticks are a little more sensitive in that it feels like there's less of a dead zone in the center of the control stick, but after a quick adjustment period, the thing feels buttery smooth. The control stick is extremely comfortable on your thumb. It feels like a GameCube controller, and when I need to make some hard turns at the edge of the stick's detection, it still works fine. Next, I fired up one of my favorite platformers on the console, Toy Story 2. And again, there's a brief moment where my muscle memory for handling a Nintendo 64 controller needs to shift, but it passed pretty quickly. The opening level of Toy Story 2 is a veritable gauntlet for testing a joystick. An opening optional tutorial testing all the platforming elements, tight platforming on the basement's beams, running in tight circles around the first robot boss, and it all performs perfectly smoothly. The controller's construction almost feels more robust now that the stick isn't constantly rattling inside its housing. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, the thing that instigated this whole thing, the ultimate test of analog controls? Well, I don't think I suck at the game any more than I did before. It feels maybe a little less forgiving of twitchy corrections on the stick, but that could easily be the game or the course itself. And it's still something that I felt used to about halfway through the second race that I ran. I even broke some course records from not dying as much. So, that's got to count for something. But there's one game that I absolutely have to test, a game where I'm one of the few people who can play it, arguably because of familiarity with the Nintendo 64's janky stick, Superman 64. And let me tell you, the new stick handles like a dream and the flying is still like second nature. You wouldn't even know I had modified my controller from this footage, and it feels completely natural now. And my brother in Christ, I cannot ever play Superman 64 without running into a huge bug! You know what really grinds my gears? I only recently found out that there's a legit way to play Superman 64 to completion without ever flying rings. You don't even need a Game Shark for it. It involves using that last game option on the menu that I never ever touched every time that the game cuts off at a given difficulty. I'm less surprised that the exploit exists, and more surprised that it was apparently such common knowledge behind the scenes that the game's main strategy guide outright tells you to do it. But back on topic, I'm absolutely thrilled with this control stick, injecting new life into my Nintendo 64 controller and making games play like brand new. But that leaves one major question. Does a fixed new and improved control stick make Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine play less like flaming hot garbage?